Hello, everybody. How we doing? It's Sunday night. It's live stream night. Hope you're doing well. I'm aware it's also Super Bowl night, so I'm not going to keep you guys away from that for too much. Well, mostly because I'd actually quite like to see it as well, because I am a bit of a football fan. But neither of my teams that I support are in the finals, so so I'm going to be watching the Super Bowl from an entirely neutral point of view, because I don't have a particular favorite to win. However, I do understand that the Eagles, I think, are the favorites to win, because on paper they are the stronger side. So that's pretty exciting. So and already we got 6 people here. Well, that's 6 more than I expected. So I'll take that. It's Super Bowl night here. It's Super Bowl 52, and I believe that the Super Bowl is broadcast to 180 countries in the world, which is extraordinary when you think about it. So that's pretty exciting. I wish, the sports that I'm into, like rugby and cricket, I wish they had that kind of broadcast power, but they don't, sadly. But so here we are, Sunday night, Super Bowl night. As I say, I'm going to keep this short because I don't want to keep you guys that are into the Super Bowl away from it. And I would quite like to watch it as well. And I have got a TV just behind me there, so I can easily put that on, and I can watch it from here, which is very cool that I can watch American football right here in Edinburgh, in Scotland, which is very exciting. So I'm aware that it's all probably started by now, and I have no idea what the score is or if it's actually kicked off yet. It might actually just be the pre-match stuff going on just now. But if it has actually started, could somebody post up the score? That'd be quite cool. But yes, as I say, I'm aware it's Super Bowl night, so we're going to keep this short. But I was reading a fantastic article. I forget where I found it, but I was reading about the guy that does all the audio for the Super Bowl. And he's a pretty incredible guy. And from what I read, the halftime show, when they set that all up, it takes them just 6 minutes to set it all up, and he talks about oftentimes, the musicians are already tracked in the studio, but most oftentimes the vocals are completely live. However, I think Prince's show from a few years back, when he did Purple Rain in torrential rain, Prince is amazing. Well, it certainly was one of the most amazing performers I have ever had the pleasure of seeing perform live. And he works so incredibly hard in his show. Just Bob says, hey, it looks like PreSonus has taken over my sound card. Can't play any audio unless it's Studio One. How do I fix this? There is an easy way to fix that, Just Bob. In fact, there are 2 things you need to do. If you're on a Windows system, the first thing you need to do is you need to go into your sound card, to your sound devices menu. You need to pull that up, and you need to basically, I think there's a checkbox there for exclusive mode. You need to make sure that it's not exclusive. That's the first thing you need to do. Second thing you need to do is you need to go into Studio One, and I think it's in the audio options there. You want to I think there's a checkbox there for release this device when in the background. So when Studio One is minimized, it releases the audio device to whatever is using your sound card. So if it's YouTube, then YouTube can use the sound card. For some people, it works if you check that. But if you do, it doesn't work. So you may have to experiment with those two with those 2 things until you find what works. In my case, on my system, I have both completely unchecked, and it works. So I can have Studio One open and I can have YouTube open at the same time. But yeah, Prince's show in the Super Bowl, when they had torrential rain, the musicians were all live at Prince's insistence. So they set up the show. It takes 6 minutes to get all the musicians on the stage with their instruments and everything plugged in, mics in the right places, the works, and in the torrential rain and everything. And it was the most amazing performance I've ever seen. And Prince is playing live guitars, so the rain is raining onto the pickups, and it's all electric and everything else. So how he didn't get an electric shock, I have no idea. But yeah, so this sound guy was talking about he runs the audio team that do the Super Bowl, and talks about he talked quite a lot about how they set it all up, and how they it takes them I think it takes them 7 days to set everything up, and then they use pink noise, I believe, to make sure that all the speaker arrays around the stadium, that they get proper spill into every seat. They check every seat to make sure that you get proper good quality audio from every possible position, which is pretty amazing. And it just takes them, I think it just takes them 12 hours to take it all apart. So pretty cool. It was a pretty cool article, and the guy, the audio engineer that runs it, is a pretty amazing bloke. And I think he has like various mixing consoles cascaded together, which is pretty cool. So yeah, so it's an interesting article. Live sound from a huge perspective, and he has a huge responsibility to make sure that all the TV stations get their audio feeds, and they get their audio feeds with the appropriate amount of limiting and compression. So he does all of that. MGN says, show Donny some love and click the thumbs up. Yes, please do. And I'm really pleased that there are 9 people here. I was not really sure what to expect because of the Super Bowl show. So as I say, I am going to keep this short, and we will do I may well do an unannounced stream this week, probably before Johnny's show. His show's at 6. I may well do mine at 5. Now I know that that's not going to work out for everybody because because you guys work and all that kind of stuff. So it's probably more likely that I'll maybe do a surprise Saturday show. So maybe I'll try and catch you guys on a Saturday morning or something, which would be like a Saturday afternoon for me, Saturday afternoon, early evening, something like that. We'll work something out, whereby we can do a proper show. And then, of course, I will be doing my regular show next Sunday as well at the usual time. Providing nothing happens, and providing I don't get run over by a steamroller traction engine or get struck by lightning or flying gerbils or something, I'll be fine. Other than that, I'll be here. So you can pretty much guarantee that unless there's a technical problem, or unless I'm dead or badly wounded or some other crisis has come up, I'll be here. All right, so basically, because this is a shorter show, basically I'm here to deal with your questions, because I don't really have time to kind of get into a big talking point as much as I'd like to. I do have some talking points lined up for the next couple of shows though, which are going to be really cool. I've got some really cool things that we can talk about that I think are going to really help you with your songwriting in particular, and your arranging in particular. Flying troubles, you need to lay off the tea, says Mike. No, that's just my sense of humor, Mike. That's just me. It's nothing to do with the tea. If only. No, nothing to do with the tea, nothing to do with, anything like that. It's just my sense of humor. I come from the surrealist school of humor. So there you go. So I'm here basically to deal with your questions on mixing, mastering, recording, songwriting, arranging, writing for strings, writing for horns, arranging backing vocals, whatever your questions are, whatever your needs are at this moment in time. Hopefully we can deal with a few questions. But as I say, next week we will have some particular talking points. I'm going to go into some details on making your arrangements really come to life and keep them interesting and engaging all the way through, from the start of the intro to the fade out or to the ending, whichever it is that you have in your song. Kyle is, I think you're a new member of this stream, I think. Kyle Jedruziak, I think that's a cool name. He says, mixing my I fathom, what does one do when mastering? What are you trying to accomplish? Mastering is like the final quality assurance. So when you've completed your mix and your mix is absolutely banging, solid mix, and you're very, very pleased with how it sounds, you've tested the mix on a variety of different sound sources. So you've used your monitors, you've used headphones, you've used earbuds, you've run it through a boombox, you've run it through the car speakers, and it all sounds really good on any one of those sources. And there's very little that you think you need to do to the mix. You're happy with it. So when you come to master that, what you're doing there is you are dealing with the final spit and polish for your song. So you would basically be listening to how the overall balance of the song sounds, and you'd be listening for where you want, elements of the mix that you want to just bring forward, bring out just a little bit, or maybe you want to get a little bit more width out of the stereo field of your song. So, and also you would want to be gluing the mix together a little bit. So, so there you would use maybe just a smidge, tiny little smidge of compression. Basically, mixing is kind of bringing the song together, bringing the song to life. Mastering is polishing it, that final little, if you're a sculptor, let's say you're a sculptor, and you've got your piece of clay, you've slammed it on the potting wheel, and you're making your sculpture. You've got your hammer, you've got your chisel, you've got chisels of various different sizes because you're wanting to deal with, you've got big ones for dealing with knocking off the big chunks right at the start, and then your chisels get smaller and smaller and smaller until you're working out just small details. And then you take a step back and you go, okay, this is finished. This looks like X object or X individual that you are, let's say you're making a statue of somebody. Somebody's commissioned you to make a statue. So you now take a step back and you go, yes, this looks like this person. It absolutely looks like this person. So then you take a step back. And what you're looking for now is you're looking for perfections and those tiny little imperfections. So you may go, you know what? The nose is just not perfectly as it should be. So then you take a step closer with your tiny little hammer, your tiny little little chisel, and you just tap away just very, very gently, just to take off just those little bits that you need to take off to make that nose straight. And you go, yeah, you know what? I'm just looking, the eyebrows are maybe a fraction, too close together than they should be. And that's okay. That's mastering. Okay? That's what mastering is. There's your analogy for mastering. So I hope that helps. Mike from MJN Studios says, songwriting. Basic layout for a song is intro, verse 1, chorus, verse 2, chorus, bridge, solo, chorus, fade out, correct? Any other ways to arrange a song? That's generally how a song tends to go, but it doesn't have to. For example, there are popular songs out there where it will go intro, verse 1, chorus 1, verse 2, chorus, intro, bridge, and then the bridge will take you off into the solo section. Solo section comes back maybe not necessarily into a chorus. It might come back into a verse, and then go out into a chorus, and then it's the chorus that goes to the fade out. So that's your layout. That's your overall structure for your song, and that's flexible. Okay, it doesn't have to be set in stone. Just like, there's a difference between a sonata and a smaller work. I mean, a sonata is quite a big work. Okay. Or let's take a symphony. Okay, a symphony would be a work in 4 movements. Sometimes they have more movements, but certainly 4 movements is kind of like the minimum for a symphony. Now, each one of those movements can have a different structure. So what was traditional was that movement 1 was in sonata form. Sonata form is very complex. I'm not going to get into that in this video, but I will deal with sonata form and how you can use sonata form for contemporary song structures. And then the second movement would be a rondo, which is like which is where you get a recurring A theme. So you'd have A, B, A, C, A, D, A, and so on and so forth. So A keeps coming round over and over again. And then there's the third movement would be a waltz, which would be in like a trio format. So that'd be like an ABA format. And then your final movement might be also a sonata. So you have sonata form to start, sonata form to finish. So there's different ways in which you can structure your song. It doesn't have to be verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus, bridge, solo, chorus, fade out. But you can do it that way. Now, when it comes to actually arranging your song, that's a little bit different than kind of like the structure of the song. The structure is one thing. The structure, if you like, is your foundational building blocks for your song. So arranging is how you deal with who takes care of the melody, who takes care of the rhythm, who takes care of counter melody, who takes care of, kind of like other points of interest, like, are you going to have backing vocals? What is going to be the point of the backing vocals? What purpose do they serve? Are they going to be wordless backing vocals? So basically you're just using them as a texture, or are they going to bring emphasis to certain points of your lyric? And then the same question you would ask about horns, strings, etc. What are they going to do? Are the strings going to provide counterpoint, or are they going to be providing a harmonic texture? And the same for the horns. Are they going to be playing throughout, or are they going to be just bringing points of interest, or are they going to be playing a counter melody, or are they going to be taking the place, providing some further harmonic textures, and give you different timbres to deal with, and different colors that you might have. Like, for example, you might not have you might not have everybody playing in verse 1. You'd maybe have your first verse stripped back, so it's just literally rhythm section and vocal. And then your chorus is much bigger, or your first chorus is a little bit bigger. So maybe you introduce your horn section in your first chorus, and then your second verse, you maybe have strings bringing the counter melody that hasn't been heard before, counter to the first verse. And then the next chorus has the horns and the strings again providing some counter melody. And then the solo section might actually go off into a different key. You can do that. A solo section doesn't have to use the chord changes from the chorus, although frequently it does, but you don't have to. I often try to introduce new harmonic material for a solo section, because I want to take the listener kind of like away from the song for a minute, kind of like a Super Bowl ad break. You know what I mean? So, kind of like, here's the action, here's the main action, and then we go off somewhere else, and then I bring you right back to the chorus. So, you need to be asking questions of the song as you're arranging it. What does this need? What are the important lines in the lyric that you want to emphasize? Underline those in your lyric, so that you know that those are the main points of emphasis. Or if you're writing it out on a text document on Word or something like that, put those important lines in italics, or underline them, or put them in a different color, something like that. And then that will remind you that you want to have something that will help emphasize that line. So, for example, you might have a counter melody that goes in call and response with that particular line. Or You might harmonize that line with backing vocals. Or you might have the rhythm section play exactly the same rhythm as your vocal at that point. So you need to ask what you're doing all the time. I mean, it's the same with mixing. My mixing students, here's what I do with my mixing students. You know, I will give them a session to mix, one of my songs, usually. And I would then say, okay, you get to mixing this. And I'm doing this over Skype with them. So they're sharing their screen and I can hear what they're doing and I can see what they're doing. And I'm like, okay, now what are you going to do with that acoustic guitar? And then they'll say, well, I'm going to EQ it. Okay, what EQ are you going to use? So then they grab an EQ that maybe they're familiar with, or maybe they'll grab an EQ that they think will provide a particular color. Maybe it depends upon their, you know, where they're at with their mixing craft. But the first question I ask is why? Why are you going to EQ that guitar? What is that going to achieve? What's your objective with EQing that guitar? So I'm constantly getting my students to think carefully and deeply about what they're doing and why they're doing it. And it's the same with arranging your song. You know, why are you doing what are you doing? Why does the melody go up at that line rather than down? Why does this particular lyric have a minor chord instead of a major one? Now you might think, hey, I'm just using, you know, standard. I'm just using standard C, A minor, F, and G. It's just a standard popular structure. So you've not really thought about necessarily, do those chords reflect the lyrics? And it might be that they're not meant to. You don't have to do that. They don't have, you know, each chord does not have to match the mood of a particular line. But it can be very effective for your key, really important lyrics, the punchline of your song, or a line of real importance that you can bring extra color to it, not just with extra timbral elements like strings, horns, backing vocals, even just like a special reverb just for that one line. Yes, those are all great ways in which you can emphasize it, but you can also do it harmonically. So it doesn't have to be that it's just you're just following a particular chord, you know, thing. You know, you might be going. But what if, you know, a particular line that comes up within those chord changes requires something that you've not heard before harmonically, because you want to emphasize a particular word? Here's what you could do. You could go, so far you've been going F, G, C, A minor, F. Let's say you want to do something different here. So you go C, A minor, A flat major, G7 with a raised 5, and that could take you to a dark place, to C minor, and all of a sudden you've got a different mood. Okay, so you can do that. If the line requires it, you can change mood temporarily, go to C minor, and then very quickly you go back to C major. Okay, so there's different ways in which you can skin this particular cat. All right, so I hope that's helped you, Mike. Sorry, that was a bit of a long answer to a short question, but I hope it's helped. Let's see. Let's go up and have a look. There really aren't any rules. There are some. There are some rules. There are what you'll find is that there are things that will work and there are things that won't. And there are things that fit and things that don't. So, you know, kind of like this is very much like doing a jigsaw puzzle. You know, for as much as you don't actually have any rules per se for doing a jigsaw puzzle, but you will know what fits and what doesn't. and what works in a particular context and what doesn't. So, kind of that's largely how general principles have come about. Things like 251 or 36251 chord progressions, and how you can get from one key to another, or one mood to another, or one mode to another, have come into being. They've come into being because, experimentation, people like J.S. Bach, Johann Sebastian Bach. I mean, he has had a profound impact upon Western understanding of harmony, to the point where just about every song you hear, be it Beyonce, Jay-Z, Adele, Phil Collins, dare I say it, Christoph Flipping Berg, they all have one thing in common. They use J.S. Bach's harmonic rules. Everybody does. C, A minor, F, G. Where do you think that came from? Did somebody land upon that by accident? No. J.S. Bach developed that. How those chords go together. He kind of worked that all out, and he wrote something called the 48 Preludes and Fugues, which basically was written to celebrate equal temperament when that came into being. And he basically wrote this grand work, 48 Preludes and Fugues, in every major and minor key possible and every mode possible. And he did that with the express intention of showing, hey, look, here's the possibilities with equal temperament. Now we have that. Now that there is an equal distance between one semitone and the next, regardless of range or register of an instrument. And so that's what that was all about. So Deirdre says, so now with the people like me that can hear the sound and write lyrics on what my inner voice hears, what do you suggest? I suggest follow that inner voice. Try them out. I mean, that's by and largely how I have arrived at a lot of the harmonic concepts I have. Yes, I've been to university and I've had, a formal music education, but yeah, I'll let you into a secret. I didn't really learn very much. And that's mostly to do with me, not my instructors, not my teachers. Deirdre follows that up by saying, I know notes, but I connect, write music, or say I haven't tried. Yeah, if you know notes, but you don't read music and you don't understand music theory, that's okay. Go with what your ears tell you, because at the end of the day, whether you know music theory and complex harmonic ideas and concepts like the Gregorian modes or negative harmony or the harmonic series and all of that stuff, even if you know that stuff, at the end of the day, what is going to dictate how your song works best? It's these, your ears. If it sounds right, it is right. Even if technically, musicologically, it isn't. Doesn't matter. What matters is how good it sounds. If it sounds good, if it makes you want to dance, if it puts you in a good mood, or if it puts you in an appropriate melancholic mood, if that's the style of the song, or if that's the narrative of the song, then you've achieved your objective. Your objective is to make music that sounds good. And it doesn't matter whether it breaks all the rules or not. Hans Zimmer, the great film composer, who has written the Pirates of the Caribbean scores and all of those and a whole host of other fantastic scores. He's one of the best film composers alive at the moment, second probably only to John Williams. He said something in his masterclass, which I have watched because one of my passions is to write film music. So I went and purchased his masterclass. And one of the things he said was, if you've come across a rule, break it. Because that's how music progresses. That's how you get from the Baroque period into the classical period. It's because people like Bach decided to start breaking all the harmonic conventions. And then people like Haydn Handel started hearing what Bach was doing harmonically and with structure and form, and they started to, you know, they started developing. They started breaking those rules, breaking out of those molds, and creating something completely different, which then Mozart, basically took to the next level by basically perfecting sonata form, which nobody had done. I mean, you had like very early ideas of it from Haydn, maybe, and maybe early Handel. But it was Mozart that really developed what we now know and understand as symphonic form. And the way Mozart handled harmony was very different to anybody else at the time, and had a great influence on Beethoven in particular. And then Beethoven took those harmonic ideas and those concepts and those orchestrational concepts, broke all of those rules, and made his own, particularly after he lost his hearing. When Beethoven lost his hearing, his music is a lot better. It's a lot more exciting. It's a lot more harmonically and melodically expressive. And the contrast between consonance and dissonance is much greater. And his music, to my opinion, is much better. So if you come across a rule, learn what the rule is, learn how that rule works and why it is there and why it works, and then break it. Experiment, stretch it as much as you can. Amadeus was a great movie, says Sean Aaron. Yeah, it was. It's not particularly wonderfully historically accurate, however. Yes, Mozart was a genius, but Salieri was not the enemy that we are led to believe he is in Franco Zeffirelli's movie. They were actually friends. They had a stormy relationship, but they were friends, and Salieri was not really as jealous as is made out in the film. Miles says, I write what I hear in my head. Not sure if I've ever written two songs the same. Well, likewise. He says, I grew up singing hymns in church, 3-4 verses with a common refrain between each verse. Yeah, that's a frequent hymn writing device. Mike says, I grew up singing like that in church as well. Yeah, I think a lot of us did. A lot of us did. I didn't, because I was not really in church when I was a kid. So, I mean, I was, for a little while, as a family, when I was very young, we went to a Methodist chapel. But that was not really part of my life until, like 1995, when I did become a Christian, and church has been something that's incredibly foundationally important to who I am. Then came Stravinsky and Tomato, says Deer Creek. Yes, absolutely. MJN says, wasn't Mozart deaf later in life too? No, he was not. No, but his cause of death, it is believed by contemporary forensics, it is believed that he died of arsenic poisoning. And that's likely because he would, it was in the drinking water in Salzburg in that time in Vienna. And it's all because of the piping that they used. So a lot of people kind of had that. Just Bob, you just posted the score. Could you post that back again, please? Because I had said that it's okay to post the scores for the Super Bowl. That's fine. Beethoven went deaf later in life. It was him that went deaf later in life. He went deaf, actually, ironically, before he wrote the 1812 Overture. The 1812 Overture was written to celebrate Napoleon, because he was a big fan of Napoleon, and that's what the whole 1812 thing was all about. And yeah, you can bet your life, Beethoven was probably glad he was deaf, because in the orchestration for the 1812 Overture, cannons, and I'm not talking about musical cannons as in the musical device. I'm talking about the actual guns. Yes, cannons are in the score. Woodby says JL1 Woodby's nil. Not really. I'm not keeping score between us here. Deer Creek says Van Gogh only heard in mono. I have not read that. You may be right. I don't know. 15-3 to Philadelphia. Yeah, well, they were widely tipped to win, which is it's one thing. Yeah, it's a bit of a shame that. I always support the underdog. If it's likely that one team is very likely to win, then I tend to support the underdog. Folks, can you just excuse me for just 1 minute? I've just heard a little bit of a bang coming from next door. I'll be right back. I don't normally do this. All right, sorry about that. It's okay. It was just a toy box that fell over in the kids' bedroom. They're both still asleep. It's fine. Oh, ouch. All right, sorry about that. All right, let's. Where are we? 22. I did say we'd make this a short one. So let's see. We've got 11 people in the room. That's really good. I was not expecting this many people, I have to admit, because of the Super Bowl. Thank you for the score update there, Beatrice. 15-3. No, it just fallen over. It's fine. Both the kids are fast asleep. They never even noticed. So all is good. All right. So keep the questions coming, folks, and we will wrap this up very, very shortly. Actually, we'll. Kevin running around, says Miles. Oh, Kevin is still here. He's been sat on the desk. He's still here. Dickery says, I watched the Puppy Bowl, me and the dogs. I like that. Yeah, I usually watch the Super Bowl pretty much every year. I have done since. I think the first time I really got into it was Super Bowl 24, if you guys remember that. And I've pretty much watched it every year ever since then. And I kind of scheduled this and then kind of went, oh no, Super Bowl. Damn, I forgot. Now they get to pick up the mess tomorrow. Yeah, it was easy to sort out. Fortunately, the contents hadn't spilled out of the box. It's just the box had fallen over. And Jazz is here. He says, hello, Johnny. Good to see you, mate. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. I wasn't expecting quite so many people in here. So it's cool that you guys are all here. I take it not really very many of you are into the Super Bowl. Or maybe you're multitasking. You're watching me and the Super Bowl at the same time. In which case, you're very, very clever. You're way cleverer than me. See, my TV in the background is switched off. But yeah, I could put the TV on whilst we're doing the stream, but I won't, because I will probably I'll probably get a copyright violation strike. You know what they're like. Our good friends over at YouTube. Jazz says, I'd rather watch you than the Super Bowl. Well, that's very, very kind. Thank you. Bobby says no sports here. So I take it, Bobby, you're not really into it. That's fine. That's fine as well. I love sports personally. I'm a former county cricket player. I played college basketball, baseball. I was a pitcher. I was a pretty good pitcher, actually. I had a very good fastball because it was very fast. But I also had a very, very good knuckleball because it was a lot slower than my fastball. And you couldn't pick it because my arm would come through at exactly the same speed. So I was a pretty good pitcher at baseball. I played rugby. And I was a fly half in rugby. If you ever follow rugby union, you'll know what I'm talking about. And yes, I was into sailing. Deer Creek says America's Cup sailboat racing. Yes, I love the America's Cup sailboat racing. Yep. I watched that. MotoGP. I have watched some, never really that big into motorsport. However, lots of my bandmates, when I had my band, they were all into Formula One and NASCAR. So I used to end up watching NASCAR after rehearsals, or we'd watch the Grand Prix on a Sunday after church. We used to do that. Miles says, how is Dawn Mode coming for you? Dawn Mode is epic. In a nutshell. Yeah, it's really, really cool. I love it. And I've been very glad to be able to be a part of testing it. It's been very, very cool. And it's really exciting that it's out in public beta now. And I'm confident that it won't be too long before the actual full release comes out. I don't know when that's going to be, but I'm pretty confident it's not going to be too far down the line now. Deer Creek says, have you seen the new American Cup, the hydrofoil mono hull, 75 feet of slamming speed on the water? I have seen those, actually. Yeah, I would. You know what? I would love to be on a crew for one of those, because those are super fast. They are fantastic. Stereo Lab 62 is here. Good to see you, mate. He says, Super Bowl, an American paean to consumer culture, gluttony, and mindlessness, says Cynical One. And you're watching it with the mute on. You know what? I totally get where you're coming from. It is definitely. I mean, from what I've heard, a 30-second commercial during the Super Bowl costs the advertiser concerned $3 million. $3 million for 30 seconds. It's ridiculous. Let's see. Woodby says NASCAR. Yes, I just sold my 2008 Corvette. Oh, lovely. Corvettes are fantastic cars. Yes, I like watching the NASCAR. And in fact, there was one of my fellow countrymen, a Scot, who was a NASCAR racer. I don't know if he still is or not, but certainly a few years back he was. And it was very cool because he would have the Scottish flag, the St Andrew's cross on the roof of his car, which is awesome. And I believe there's actually a NASCAR driver who has Persona's sponsorship all over it, which is really cool. Dick Greek Audio says, I'm waiting for a fader bank expansion for the fader ports. Well, I don't know whether that's at all likely, I'm afraid. It's a good idea. I just don't know how likely it is. I mean, I think it's pretty cool that we have the original fader port. The original fader port is still incredibly popular. And we have the fader port 8 and the 16. From what I've heard from my friend Rick Nakvi, the 16 was never and never originally part of the plan. The Faderport 16 was never originally part of the plan. That was created purely by popular demand, and people are buying it out of that popular demand. At least that's what I heard. So I don't know how true that is, but yeah. Have I ever toyed with the Omnisphere? No, I have not. I'm afraid. No. Woodby says, yes, it was sweet. I needed the money for a new one. Yeah, Corvettes are great cars, but oh man, they are so gas hungry. If they had a nice economical version of it, I might be tempted. Stereolab asks, is that a Nord on the left? Yes, it is. It is. It's the Nord Stage 88 Revision B, so it's old. This is the 2006 Revision B model. So I've had it ages now. I've had it like 11 years, 12 years nearly. Deer Creek says, when you have 50 tracks with VCA, FX buses, etc., the banks get tedious to scroll through. That's why more faders would be helpful. Well, yes. I mean, that's where something like the Studio Live 32 with DAW mode is going to be extremely useful. I would say if you're dealing with 50 tracks and you're not wanting to page through all the banks all the time, because you've got 50 tracks and you've got buses and you've got effects buses and all of that, then I would say you need something bigger that does the DAW control. And the biggest device that PreSonus do at the moment is the Studio Live 32. He says, I'd take a 32 bank of faders, $1,500. Thank you, PreSonus. Well, yeah, I don't know. Not when you've got the Studio Live 32. I don't know that they would do a Faderport 32 when they've got Studio Live 32 with DAW mode. Unlikely, I would say. But you never know. I've been wrong. I've been wrong before about trying to, guess what they're going to do next, and they proved me wrong. So but the live series can't do everything the Faderports do. That is correct. They can't. You're quite right. But there's things that the Studio Live can do that the Faderports can't do. So because, they're essentially different devices. You can't daisy chain Faderport 8s. There is a way of doing it. You have to have one, I think, in Mackie mode and the other one in native mode to get it to work. At least this is what I have heard from a very good source, who usually knows what they're talking about. So it's 15.6 Eagles. Okay. So that's cool. I will certainly be going to watch some more of the Super Bowl in a little while. Eagles 15, New England Patriots 6. New England Patriots first and 10 at New England 31. Cool. Okay. Dickerick asks, where is my Rhodes? My Rhodes is in the lounge. There's not enough space for it to be in here as well as everything else. So the Rhodes is in the lounge. I have a good Rhodes sound on here, as you can hear. So I use this quite a lot, but sometimes I will go and mic up the Rhodes as well. Just depends what I'm wanting to do and if I can be bothered to get all the cabling out for it. Yeah. 3 minutes till half time. Okay, cool. Thanks for that, Bob. I appreciate that. Stereolabs asks, top 5 artists / bands that influenced you. Okay, great question. I will start with, where will I start? George and Ira Gershwin. Duke Ellington. Count Basie. Oh, shucks. It's going to have to be more than 5. Sorry. Charlie Parker. John Coltrane. Thelonious Monk. Steely Dan. Weather Report. Average White Band. Okay, 10. Okay, one more then. Michael Brecker. There you go. Michael Brecker / the Brecker Brothers. With their kind of synonymous. So that counts as 10. So there you go. And New England just scored. Fantastic. Bartok. Yeah, Bartok, yeah. I like Bartok's piano music. I cannot play it, but I like it. I would say another really good classical composer, well, you can't really call him a classical composer, contemporary composer would have to be Messiaen, the French organist and composer Messiaen. Olivier Messiaen. Go look him up on Google. One of the things that he did was he basically tried to transcribe birdsong, and he made a whole anthology of bird songs and then he kind of scored them out for organ. He scored them out for piano as well as orchestra. Debussy and Ravel in the early 20th century, in the French Impressionist kind of school. They made a lot of use of things like this. And you know, things like this. So they used a lot of ninth chords in particular, Ravel and Debussy. How about within the pop rock genre? Well, I've mentioned Steely Dan. That would be rock. But they've got jazz influences as well. I would also have to say Huey Lewis and the News. Let me think. Dire Straits. I think Dire Straits are fantastic. Who else would I have in there? Paul Simon. Great songwriter. Fantastic songwriter. Who else am I going to have in my rock top 10? It's a good one. That is actually a good one. Bruce Hornsby in the Range. Beatles. Let me think. Stevie Wonder. Tower of Power, although they are a soul band, soul funk band. Earth, Wind and Fire. Chicago. Let me think. Who else? I think that's 10, isn't it? Don't know. I think that might be 10. Foreplay. There's another good contemporary band. Deer Creek says, have you heard of Marshall Harrison? Killer guitar shredder, can sight read all that 64th note Bach stuff. Reads tabs like I breathe air. Check out his YouTube channel. Yeah, I think I've heard that name bandied about quite a bit. Actually, I'll tell you who I have seen recently, and if you want to find it, it's on my personal Facebook page. Just scroll down a bit until you find it. But there's this kid who plays guitar. He must be about 17, something like that. Plays Cherokee really, really fast, soloing over the changes of Cherokee. But he plays his guitar like you'd play a bass. But it's fantastic. He's incredibly talented. Yeah, favorite Steely Dan album has to be Asia, closely followed by The Royal Scam, and then Katie Lied. And then Two Against Nature, and then Everything Must Go. Pretzel Logic is a great record. Yeah, that's probably my top Steely Dan records. Stevie Wonder from 71, 76. Yes, absolutely. Songs in the Key of Life is a wonderful record. He's just a genius. Absolutely. No doubt about that. All right. So we're coming up on 1 o'clock now. I didn't think we would get that close, but we are. It's 7 o'clock for you guys. Royal Scam, Katie Lied, but all good. Yes. Deirdre says Nina Simone, Sarah Vaughan, Dinah Washington, Billie Holiday, Chaka Khan, Barbara Streisand, Neil Diamond, Taste of Honey, Diana Ross. You know what? All of those are wonderful singers. I could not agree more. And of those, of your little collection of artists there, Deirdre, I'm going to pick two as my favorite off your list. Chaka Khan and Billie Holiday. Dear Creek says, so actually, on a serious note, what do you think of Gaga? Don't get me started. She's very popular. She's a very hardworking artist. That's absolutely for sure. She really does work very hard at her craft, and all credit to her for that. She's done that. A lot of what she's achieved as an artist is down to her own hard work, because kind of, it's what she does is relatively unique, quite unique. And the trouble is, nowadays in the music business, getting records out that are going to be selling it in millions is incredibly hard. It's much harder now than maybe in the 70s and 80s to have a million selling record. Because now you have to be phenomenally, not just unique, but what your unique thing has to be ridiculously popular. And she kind of has that. Michael Jackson is one of those people who I think was phenomenally gifted as a musician, as a songwriter, as a performer. Extremely gifted, not necessarily brilliantly cared for or brilliantly managed. And I think that's kind of a lot of where it all went wrong for him, in a lot of ways. And I think maybe now he might actually still be here, still be with us, if he had been better cared for, been given better support, and managed a lot better. I don't know. It's a hard one. Because there's no doubt about his talent. Absolutely no doubt about his talent. It's kind of what record companies and what advisors did with that talent that I think is entirely questionable. Whoopi says, sorry, but it is so well written and performed. Yes, I absolutely agree. Lady Gaga's material is well written and extremely well performed. No doubt about it. Deer Creek says, I mentioned those two artists because they're top shelf recording and songwriting, whether you like it or not. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Can't be agreed with. Sorry, can't not be agreed with is what I should say. Michael Jackson's musical catalog speaks for itself. And his performance capabilities, the evidence is undeniable. The guy was ridiculously hardworking. He was tireless in pursuit of perfection with his work, and he had great producers like Quincy Jones along the way. And I know that my good friend Khalik was involved with Michael as well along the way. But yeah, I think had Michael been maybe better cared for, better managed, better advised, I don't know. It's hard to say, isn't it? He may still be here. Gaga's Super Bowl show was insanely incredible. Yeah, it was. It was a very good show. There's no doubt about it. It was a good show. Even here's the thing. Even if you don't like an artist's particular style or an artist's particular brand of music, you can argue with how good they are at what they do. And you cannot argue with how much work and how much effort is put into what they achieve. That's pretty much undeniable. The rest after that is personal taste. You can either like Michael Jackson's music or not like it, but you can't deny there's a huge amount of talent involved in it. And that'll be my personal opinion there. Deer Creek says Michael's a nutcase, too much money. Well, his problems, his mental health problems, I don't know where that starts. I don't know why that is. That that might be a product of upbringing. Who knows? It's hard to say, and I'm not a psychologist, so I'm not really qualified to be able to go into a whole lot of detail on that. However, I can talk about his songwriting. That's something I am qualified to talk about. All right, folks, I'm going to have to wrap it up there because it is after 1 o'clock and it is now probably halftime at the Super Bowl, and I would like to catch at least some of the second half before I go to bed. So thanks very much to all 12 of you for coming in and being part of the show, because I didn't expect anybody. To be honest, I thought I'd maybe have 4 people here and I'd be doing like a 20-minute show. So you guys have kept me going for a whole hour. So we've done a regular show. So thanks, guys. Really appreciate it, because I know for a lot of you, you're probably wanting to watch the Super Bowl, and that's totally legit, because that's really where I would like to be as well. But, I do this regularly, so, I don't want to break something that I do regularly. Whoopi says, JL, let one go before you leave. Yeah, I can burp on command. I'm not sure I can fart on command, if that's what you mean. Deirdre says, just think we all work hard and we are all still broke. Yeah, ain't that the truth? Unfortunately, that is the truth. Suffice to say, folks, that things are developing at pace now here with the new things that are coming for Jonny Lipsham Studios. We have a new VIP membership site that's going to be a part of my website, a part of jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk. That is, I've actually seen some of the pages being built already. I've had a look. I've seen what's going there, and it looks really, really cool, guys. And we're not really finished with it yet. So that is building at speed. This time next week, folks, there will be an email list for you guys to join and sign up to. And when you sign up to that email list, you will get my 5-part compression video series. It is on my YouTube channel, but you know what? You can actually just download the raw video files and you can have them on your computer forever to refer to, and all of that kind of stuff, so that you don't have to go to my YouTube channel and keep searching for them and looking them up. You will also get the stems to one of my songs from my EP from 2016. And you'll get both of those. You'll get access to both those files, and you can mix that song. You can remix it. You can be as creative as you like with that song if you really want to. If you don't just want to mix it. and you can do that. And the other thing I'm going to let you do with that is you can put that up on your website as part of your mixing portfolio. The only thing I ask in return for that is that you credit me as the songwriter. So you want to put song by Jonny Lipsham and then cite the album belonging to tomorrow, from the album belonging to tomorrow 2016. Okay, so you will get those just for signing up to the email list. I'm nearly finished building that out, and that will be up, as I say, this time next week. So you can sign up for that, and you'll get a whole bunch of content that I'm not going to put up on my website, and that is not going to go up anywhere else. And you'll get advanced notice of when new stuff is going to come out. Like, for example, when I do my next EP this year, I will give you guys that are on my email list and my VIPs, when all of that is done, you guys will get advanced notice of the album and you'll be able to pre-order. So there's a whole bunch of good reasons why you can sign up to my email list. And also you'll get kept completely up to date with things as they develop here as well. All right, folks, thanks so very much for coming. Deer Creek says, do more Prusone Symphonic Orchestra videos. Yeah, I kind of did a 9-part series on that, which kind of just gives you an overview of each of the sections. So feel free to explore that product, and maybe I might actually write a piece of music using the whole orchestra. Who knows? We'll see. All right, folks, I will see you probably in the chat on Johnny's show tomorrow night, and certainly on Wednesday for Songwriting Simplified. Take care, folks. Good night.